Something shifted in Milwaukee last night, and the reverberations are being felt all the way across the country to Los Angeles. Social media went into absolute chaos. Group chats exploded. Lakers fans started refreshing their feeds every 30 seconds. Because when a two-time MVP starts scrubbing his social media presence, when one of the greatest players of this generation begins distancing himself from the only franchise he's ever known, you better believe the entire basketball world stops and pays attention. And right now, all roads might be leading straight to Crypto.com Arena. Welcome to Lakers News Fan Report, your home for the latest breaking news, insider analysis, and everything happening with our beloved Los Angeles Lakers. I'm bringing you the updates that matter, the moves that could reshape our franchise, and the stories that every Lakers fan needs to know about. And what I'm about to break down today could legitimately alter the entire landscape of the NBA for the next decade. Before we get into the magnitude of what's developing, I need you to understand the context of where we are right now. The Lakers are navigating through a season of transition. We've got LeBron James still performing at an otherworldly level despite being in year 22. We've got Anthony Davis healthy and playing like the dominant force we always knew he could be. But there's been this underlying question hanging over the franchise like a cloud. What's next? How do we maximize this window while we still have LeBron? How do we build something that sustains beyond this era? Those questions might be about to get answered in the most spectacular way imaginable. Now, let me take you to Milwaukee for a moment, because that's where this entire story begins to unravel. The Bucks are in complete disarray right now. They're sitting at 9 wins and 13 losses, which for a team that was supposed to contend for championships is nothing short of catastrophic. They've lost 8 of their last 9 games. When Giannis was out with an adductor strain, they dropped 7 straight, their longest losing streak in over a decade. This isn't just a rough patch. This is organizational chaos at the highest level. 2 nights ago, they lost to the Washington Wizards. Let me repeat that. They lost to the Washington Wizards, who are sitting at the absolute bottom of the standings. After that embarrassing defeat, Giannis Antetokounmpo did something that sent shockwaves through the entire basketball community. He didn't speak to media, which is unusual enough for a superstar of his caliber. But then he went home and systematically began removing almost every trace of the Milwaukee Bucks from his social media accounts. Think about what that means for a second. This is a player who brought Milwaukee their first championship in 50 years. This is a guy who's been the face of that franchise for over a decade. And suddenly his Instagram profile picture changes to him in his Greek national team uniform. His bio on X now just says NBA athlete, with no mention of the Bucks. The only photos of him in a Milwaukee jersey that remain are from their 2021 championship and last year's NBA Cup victory. Everything else, gone, deleted, erased. This isn't some random social media cleanse. This is a message, and everyone around the league is reading it, loud and clear. When a player of Giannis Antetokounmpo's stature starts distancing himself publicly from his team, especially during a season where they're spiraling out of control, it means one thing: he's done. He's ready to move on. And the question becomes, where does a player like that go when he decides it's time for a change? Let me paint you a picture of what Giannis Antetokounmpo would mean for the Los Angeles Lakers. We're talking about a 6'11" freak of nature who can guard all 5 positions, who can handle the ball like a guard, who can finish at the rim better than almost anyone in NBA history. We're talking about a 2-time MVP, a Defensive Player of the Year, a Finals MVP, and someone who's still only 30 years old. He's in the absolute prime of his career, and he's looking at a situation in Milwaukee that's crumbling around him. The basketball fit is almost too perfect to comprehend. Imagine Giannis running the floor with LeBron James in transition. Picture the defensive versatility of having Giannis and Anthony Davis on the same front line. Think about the spacing issues that would create for opposing defenses when you've got 3 legitimate superstars who can all create their own shot and make plays for others. This wouldn't just be a big three, this would be a legitimate dynasty in the making. Here's where the story gets even more interesting. This isn't the first time Giannis trade speculation has heated up. Last month, Shams Charania reported that the Bucks had actually engaged in trade conversations with the New York Knicks during the offseason about a potential deal involving Giannis. That means Milwaukee was already exploring the possibility of moving him even before this season went completely off the rails. And according to Shams, even though Giannis hasn't formally requested a trade, he's been described as open-minded about the possibility of playing elsewhere. Giannis himself addressed this back in September during Media Day. He made it crystal clear what his priorities are. He said he wants to be on a team that gives him a chance to win championships, that wants to compete at the highest level. He said it would be a disservice to basketball to not want to compete, to not want your season to extend beyond April. Those are the words of a player who's tired of mediocrity, who's tired of wasting his prime years on a team that can't get it together. And where does a player like that look when he wants to win championships? Where does a generational talent go when he wants to cement his legacy among the all-time greats? Los Angeles, the Lakers, the most storied franchise in NBA history, the team that's won 17 championships, the organization that knows how to build winners and attract superstars. Let's talk about the practical side of making this happen, because I know some of you are thinking, this sounds too good to be true. Giannis is under contract through the 2027-28 season when he has a player option. He signed a 3-year, $186 million extension back in October 2023. That's a massive contract, and moving it would require some serious financial engineering. But here's the thing. When you're the Lakers, when you have Rob Pelinka as your general manager, when you have the Buss family's commitment to winning, you find a way to make these things work. Milwaukee is in a terrible position right now. They waived Damian Lillard before the season started and are stretching his remaining $113 million over 5 years instead of 2. That means they're paying $22.5 million per year for a player who's not even on their roster. Their salary cap situation is a mess. Their team chemistry is broken. Their championship window has slammed shut. If Giannis is genuinely unhappy, if he's truly ready to move on, Milwaukee has every incentive to work with him on finding a destination that works for everyone involved. From the Lakers' perspective, this is the kind of move that you mortgage the future for without hesitation. You trade whatever picks you have to trade. You include whatever young players need to be included. Because when you have a chance to pair a 30-year-old Giannis Antetokounmpo with LeBron James and Anthony Davis, you don't think twice. You pull the trigger immediately and figure out the details later. Think about what this would mean for LeBron's legacy chase. He's already the all-time leading scorer. He's already won 4 championships with 3 different franchises. But imagine if he could add one more title, this time playing alongside Giannis in his twilight years. That would be the perfect capstone to the most remarkable career in basketball history. And for Giannis, playing with LeBron would accelerate his own development as a leader and champion. The knowledge transfer alone would be invaluable. For Anthony Davis, this could be the move that finally allows him to play his natural position full-time. With Giannis handling a lot of the interior responsibilities, AD could operate more from the perimeter, use his shooting touch, and not have to bang down low every single night. That could extend his career and keep him healthier for longer stretches. The defensive versatility of having both Giannis and AD would be absolutely suffocating for opponents. There wouldn't be a single team in the league that could match up with that front court. Let's talk about what happened to Milwaukee after their 2021 championship, because it's a cautionary tale about how quickly things can fall apart when you don't maintain your roster properly. They've been on a steady decline since winning that title. They made questionable moves. They didn't surround Giannis with the right complementary pieces, and now they're paying the price. Giannis has been carrying that franchise on his back for years, and he's finally reached the point where he's realizing he can't do it alone anymore. The timing of all this couldn't be more perfect for the Lakers. We're at a point in the season where teams are starting to figure out who they are. Milwaukee has figured out they're not good enough. The Lakers have figured out they're close, but need one more piece to truly compete with the elite teams. And Giannis has figured out that his time in Milwaukee might be coming to an end. When all those realizations align at the same time, that's when blockbuster trades happen. I want you to imagine opening night next season at Crypto.com Arena. The lights dim, the announcer starts calling out the starting lineup, and you hear, at forward from Greece, number 34, Giannis Antetokounmpo. The crowd would absolutely lose their minds. That building would shake. Lakers fans have been dreaming about moments like this for years, and it might finally be about to become reality. The basketball world would shift on its axis overnight. The Lakers would immediately become the favorites to win the championship. Every other contender would have to completely rethink their strategy. The Celtics, the Nuggets, the Suns, everyone would be looking up at Los Angeles. That's the kind of move that changes the entire trajectory of the league. Here's what I think is happening behind the scenes right now. Rob Pelinka is absolutely on the phone. He's exploring every possible avenue to make this work. He's talking to Milwaukee, he's crunching numbers with the cap experts, he's figuring out what combination of assets would get this deal done. And on the other side, Milwaukee's front office is starting to have those difficult conversations about whether it's time to move on from their franchise player and start a rebuild. Giannis is under contract, so he doesn't have the leverage to demand a trade to a specific destination. But here's the reality. When a player of his caliber makes it clear he wants out, teams work with him. They find a situation that makes sense for everyone. And if Giannis looks at the landscape of potential destinations and sees the Lakers with LeBron and AD, sees the opportunity to play in Los Angeles, sees the chance to win multiple championships with a legendary franchise, why wouldn't that be his preferred destination? The obstacles are real. I'm not going to sugarcoat that. The Lakers don't have a treasure trove of draft picks to offer. They don't have a collection of young prospects that would entice Milwaukee into a rebuild. But what they do have is the Lakers brand, the allure of Los Angeles, and the ability to create a situation where Giannis could thrive both on and off the court. Sometimes that intangible value matters just as much as the tangible assets in a trade. There's also the possibility of a three-team trade that could make the math work better for everyone involved. Maybe there's a team out there with draft capital who wants to get involved and facilitate this deal in exchange for some of the Lakers' role players. Maybe there's a young player on another roster who Milwaukee would be interested in that could be routed through a larger deal. These are the kinds of creative solutions that championship organizations find when they're motivated to make something happen. I keep coming back to Giannis scrubbing his social media because that's such a deliberate action. This isn't something you do on a whim. This isn't something you do because you're frustrated after one bad loss. This is a calculated decision to send a message to your organization, to the league, and to potential future teams that you're ready for a change. And the Lakers need to be ready to capitalize on that message. The next few weeks are going to be absolutely crucial. We're heading toward the trade deadline, and that's when these kinds of seismic moves typically happen. Milwaukee is going to continue struggling unless something dramatic changes. Giannis is going to continue evaluating his options, and the Lakers are going to continue positioning themselves to make a move when the opportunity presents itself. Think about what this would mean for Lakers fans who've been through so much over the past few years. We've dealt with disappointment. We've dealt with injuries. We've dealt with roster construction issues. But landing Giannis Antetokounmpo would validate all of that patience. It would prove that the Lakers are still the premier destination for superstars who want to win. It would show that this organization is committed to competing at the highest level, no matter what it takes. I'm optimistic about this because I've seen how these situations play out. I've watched the Lakers pull off blockbuster moves that seemed impossible until they happened. I remember when we got Pau Gasol and immediately won back-to-back championships. I remember when we signed LeBron and won another title. This franchise has a history of making big moves at the right time, and right now feels like one of those moments the basketball would be absolutely spectacular. Giannis in the open floor is one of the most devastating forces the game has ever seen. Pair that with LeBron's court vision and passing ability, and you'd have an offense that would be virtually impossible to stop. Add in Anthony Davis's ability to stretch the floor and protect the rim, and you're looking at a team that could dominate on both ends of the court. Defensively, having Giannis and AD together would be a nightmare for every opposing offense. They could switch everything, they could protect the rim, they could disrupt passing lanes, they could guard multiple positions. The versatility would be off the charts. And with LeBron still capable of locking in defensively when it matters most, you'd have a team that could turn up the intensity in playoff situations and completely suffocate opponents. The cultural fit is something I haven't even touched on yet, but it matters. Giannis is a worker. He's humble despite his success. He's a team-first player who cares about winning above everything else. That's exactly the kind of mentality that thrives in a Lakers uniform. That's exactly the kind of player who would mesh perfectly with what LeBron and AD have built here. There wouldn't be ego clashes or chemistry issues. This would be three superstars who all want the same thing, championships. So here we are, standing at what could be the most important crossroads in Lakers history since we signed LeBron back in 2018. Giannis Antetokounmpo is available, or at least he's open to being available. Milwaukee is in chaos. The Lakers are positioned to make a move, and the entire basketball world is watching to see what happens next. This is the kind of moment that defines franchises, that creates dynasties, that changes the entire trajectory of the league. I genuinely believe this is possible. I genuinely believe Rob Pelinka is working every angle to make this happen. And I genuinely believe that when we look back on this moment years from now, we might be talking about it as the beginning of another Lakers dynasty. That's how significant this could be. That's how much this would change everything. What do you think about the possibility of Giannis joining the Lakers? Would you be willing to trade whatever it takes to make this happen? How do you think he would fit alongside LeBron and AD? I want to hear from every single one of you in the comments below because this is the kind of move that we need to discuss as a fan base. This could define the next era of Lakers basketball. If you want to stay on top of every development in this story, if you want the fastest updates and the most in-depth analysis, make sure you're subscribed to Lakers News Fan Report with notifications turned on. We're going to be covering every twist and turn of this situation as it unfolds. Hit that like button if you're excited about the possibility of Giannis in purple and gold, and share this video with every Lakers fan you know. The future is bright, Lakers Nation. We're on the verge of something special. Let's see this through together. Lake Show for life.